Hello everyone, thanks for tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at well next 8 to 10 days in today's video, which takes us to around the 13th of March, so going up towards the middle part of the month. I think you'll see the weather turning milder next week. We're in a fairly chilly snap of weather, although the snow situation has turned into a bit of a fiasco, to be honest. It again has been generally on the wet rather than the white side of marginal. There will be a bit more snow tomorrow across northern parts of England, North Wales and the North Midlands in particular, but generally no, it's just rain for many parts of the country. I'll have a look at Snow Watch this evening, but if you're away from a hill or a mountain and you don't live in northern England, I wouldn't be expecting a great deal tomorrow, to be honest, but we will have a look at it on Snow Watch later. But as I say, this is going to take us over next week, 10 days, and I think it will be turning milder next week, so this colder start to March will be on its way out next week as the weather becomes milder off the Atlantic. I'll show you the charts in a second. Before I get on with that though, just to say about the ads at Gasworth, there's links to articles on all pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads on most pages which open up the content. You watch it close back up again. It's able to pay for our website. So to start off with stratosphere, we've got another stratospheric warming coming up over the next couple of days. So this is the stratospheric temperature forecast chart from the GFS model for from the website meteoseal.fr. We can see it already starting to warm up across Siberia again, and as we run through into tomorrow, those red colours appear across Siberia and start to push in towards the Arctic. Here it comes through the weekend. See a very large warming event taking place, with those red colours pushing into the top of the pole. That's the temperature again in the upper atmosphere shooting up. We've had a couple of these warmings over the past few weeks. This is about the third one that we've had in the space of a month. Will this one be the killing blow to the polar vortex? We'll probably have to wait 2 or 3 weeks to find out. But remember, the idea behind this is that when it warms up in the stratosphere over top of the pole, if it happens suddenly, and if it propagates down into the troposphere, it can reverse the zonal winds and set up blocking. So that's what we're looking for, to see whether this eventually translates back into some blocked high pressure conditions over the top of pole. We will wait to see, to find out. But certainly a pretty warm stratosphere by the time we get through into next week over the North Pole. Right, let's have a look at 500 millibar height anomalies for the next 8 to 10 days time. We've got the ECMWF here on the top and the GFS is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 8,000 feet is an area in the atmosphere, high pressure, low pressure, being moved around by a jet stream running above. Blue extrapolates to low pressure, yellow or orange and red extrapolates to high pressure on these charts. So what we see for the coming week to 10 days with the ECMWF has got some high pressure up over the North Pole, but the main thing is that low pressure is strengthening in the Atlantic to the north and west of the country, with a strengthening jet stream as well. So this is a bit of an Atlantic driven pattern as we're going through into next week. I say this takes us to day 10, which is the 13th of March. This is an Atlantic driven pattern returning through the course of next week. So it will be turning unsettled. There'll be bands of rain coming through next week, but on the plus side, if you want it mild, the temperature should be lifting up as well, because the air is coming back in from an Atlantic source. That's the ECMWF. The GFS is very similar. In fact, it's a little bit deeper with that trough of low pressure in the Atlantic, very strong jet stream and deep trough blasting through the Atlantic and into the UK. Rather like that. So again, it's an Atlantic driven onslaught that's taking place there through the course of next week. Have a look at the GFS temperature precipitation ensembles then. The temperatures, first of all, the red line here is the 30-year temperature average, so we're staying significantly below average over the next couple of days and into the weekend, also inside of next week. But after that, we go through into next week and those temperatures do lift up there. It becomes milder, so a recovery in the temperature should take place once we get into particularly the middle part of next week. Precipitation coming through as well, so there could be some wintry potential over the next 2, 3, 4 days with this colder snap of weather. That's mainly going to be over high ground. Now, as we get through into next week, still bringing some precipitation spikes through, but that's with a lift up in the temperature, so that is just bands of rain coming in off the Atlantic. Generally, it's fairly unsettled, I think, next week, and quite mild. Temperature anomalies, so coming week, the 3rd of March through to the 11th, looking colder than average. I would expect these to start trending warmer over the next few days. So when we look at them, we won't look at them again this week. When we look at them again next week, I think they'll be showing a milder or a warmer than average anomaly. The precipitation anomaly looking like this, so it's near normal to a little bit drier than average in the north and maybe a little bit wetter than average even across some northern parts of England and East Anglia, but generally not deviating too far from the average. Here's for GFS for Monday, still in a cold northerly flow. On Monday, so start of next week will still be quite cold, but by the time we go through to Tuesday, the westerly wind is starting to return. It's still chilly for England and Wales. It's turning milder for Scotland. And then as goes into the middle part of next week, here come the southwesterly winds with probably a band of rain moving across the country. And then we just stay in an Atlantic-driven pattern then through the rest of the week. This is Friday the 11th, and we're firmly in a westerly with bands of rain coming through. Temperatures should be fairly mild as we're going into that second week of March. This looks very pleasant actually. This is Sunday the 13th, day 10. Now we're starting to build up a ridge down to the southwest as the low pressure is being forced up to the north. This could be a real taste of spring, our first real spring push possible there. Over that weekend of the 12th, 13th of March. If it comes off, you could be seeing temperatures up to the mid-teens Celsius with a lot of very pleasant sunshine down in the south. So that's a real taste of spring by the time you go through to day 10. The EWF very similar again, bring down that normally for start of next week. It'll still be cold at the start of next week. But moving through the week, the westerlies return, so temperatures will lift back up to average by the middle of the week, but still with some bands of rain moving through. And then the second half of the week looks unsettled with low pressure moving in off the Atlantic, bringing bands of rain. But it's a westerly flow, so it's not going to be especially cold. And very similar to the GFS, actually, the ECMWF builds this ridge down to the south by day 10, Sunday the 13th of March. So high pressure across Spain and France with low pressure up to the north, where you follow the ice bars back, the air being dragged up from the tropical Atlantic. So again, you could easily see temperatures up to mid-teens Celsius with that, and that could be our first real spring weekend there for the 12th to the 13th of March. I think this weekend coming is going to be a bit cold. It'll still be a wintry feel. Next weekend, 12th, 13th March, could have our first real sort of spring-like feel for the weekend. So, well, it's staying cold for the rest of this week into the weekend, and just the start of next week, then it looks like temperatures are going to stage a recovery with some bands of rain through the middle of next week. We go through towards the middle of March when we could have our first push of spring. Right, that's it for now. Update Snow Watch later on. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.